friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
62.
So, it is an important weekend.
Yep.
What weekend is that, Sherry?
Mother's Day.
It is Mother's Day. Happy Sunday. Nope. Happy Mother's Day on Sunday to all you mothers.
In the United States of America.
Oh, that's right. Actually, we were on vacation in Ireland when it was Mother's Day, like over there.
Yes, I think so.
And we saw all this Mother's Day stuff, and we're like, what are they talking about? Because it was in like March.
2 months early.
Yeah, it's like, what are they talking about? So, yeah, to all of you American mamas, happy Mother's Day. And so we thought, in honor of Mother's Day, we would just share some life lessons, some things that have been imparted to us and passed on to us by our own moms and mom-type ladies in our life.
Yep.
Right? And so we're just going to go through and just kind of share some, share some things, some stories, all that kind of stuff, sort of a tribute to moms in our life.
Yeah.
Sherry Beth.
Yeah.
You are going to start. First of all, I want you to tell us who your mom is, and then, what is your thing you want to share about her?
My mother's name is Denise.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yep.
I did know that, just so you know.
And I think this one wasn't super hard for me to come up with because all of you know that I love this. This is a big part of my life. Reading.
What?
My mother gave me my love of reading.
So because when we were talking about this, and here's the thing I want to say. The reality is you could have a million-hour-long episode on lessons from moms,
Correct.
right? And so we're limited it to one thing.
Yes.
And so when we were talking about this earlier, reading was just instant for you.
This is the thing that first popped in my mind. And I was telling Adam this story. So I was probably, I don't even know, 8, 9, 10 years old.
And I had never heard this. This was the first time I had ever heard this.
Yeah. And I had read, I'd been reading my whole life. I'd had books read to me, and then as soon as I knew how to read myself, I was reading. And there was a series, it's called Love Comes Softly.
Is it by
Jeanette Oak.
Is it Jeanette?
Yep.
I remember that series.
And my mother had read this series so many times. I had seen her reading it so many times, and I was so excited to read it. And I was probably, like I said, 8, 9, 10 years old, and I started to read this series. And it is like Christian romance. Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy reading. And I have read it, I can't even tell you how many times through since then.
Yeah.
But my mom's books, this was long before digital books were a thing.
Uh-huh.
So this is, late 80s, early 90s. And so my mom's books that she had read so many times, I can still feel. I can feel the plastic kind of peeling away from the cover. I can feel the softness of the pages because they had been read so many times. And I just, that's the series. I think that was my first adult series.
Yeah.
They were written for adults. And like I said, I've read them so many times since then. I still own them. My own books now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think my love of reading is really, I got that from my mom.
So do you remember, it's so funny to me because even you describing the feel of the pages and the book, obviously it's a very clear memory. Uh-huh. So do you remember her as a kid growing up? You remember her reading then? It was something that she did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even still.
Still, yeah.
When it's Mother's Day or birthdays or, Christmases, the go-to, you're going to give a good gift for Denise mm-hmm. is almost always a Kindle gift card.
A Kindle gift card, right? Because she loves to read on her Kindle or a book itself.
Totally.
And so, yeah, it's still, and vice versa. Honestly, she gives me the same things because I love to read.
I do love that because I think that that's such again, to know you is to know your love of reading.
Yeah. And
it's cool to hear where that came from and where that started.
Yeah.
So there you go. So my mom's name is Nita. Some of you guys have seen her in past videos. Thinking about this for me, there's one illustration that really popped in my head. And I want to just kind of preface this by saying I know for me, and I think probably for a lot of us, when you grow up, your moms tell you things and they give you life lessons and illustrations and stories. And all you can think is like, oh, my mom is so weird. Right? Like we all thought that. It's like there's no way that's true. Yet a lot of the times what happens is we grow up, you realize it's like, God damn it, my mom was right.
Right.
You know? And I've had a lot of those.
Man.
Ah, no, she was right. I'm the weird one now. And so growing up, there was this thing that she'd always say to me, and I think I might have talked about it on a podcast or a vlog before. And my brother and I still joke about it to this day. My mom would say, what side of the fence are you on? What side of the fence are you on, Adam? What side of the fence are you on, Ron? And what she meant when she said that was this illustration she taught us growing up was that everything in life you approach from one of two things. You approach from the love side of the fence or the fear side of this fence. And I remember to me what that essentially means is it has to do with like my response. How am I responding to this?
Right.
Am I responding to this out of love? Am I responding to this out of kindness? Am I responding to this out of fear, out of anger, out of hurt? How are you responding? How are you approaching this? And so to me, as a 42-year-old guy, I think about that stupid fence all of the time. When I get offended, when I get hurt, when I get like all of those things. And when I want to respond.
How am I responding?
When I want to respond from the fear side of the fence or the anger side of the fence, I have to like stop and take a breath and be like, all right, how am I responding? What side of the fence am I on right now? And it's like, I can hear my mom's voice say it so much. And so to me, I think the thing that I'm thinking about this Mother's Day for my mom is that illustration, that what I can control is like my response to things. Mm-hmm. And how am I going to respond? From the love side of the fence or the fear side of the fence? Yeah. So that dang fence.
I know.
But then kind of have an interesting situation because so my parents got divorced when I was like 7. Here's what I want to say. Fortunately, they've gotten along amazing like my whole life. Even still, they've been friends. I never once was made to feel like I had to decide or choose between them. And my dad has been with this amazing woman, Susan, for a couple decades now.
Long time, yeah. You were
14, 15.
Yep.
When Susan came into my life. And
so almost 30 years.
We call her, it's really funny because Dad and Susan have never officially gotten married. I mean, here's the reality. They're married, like they're a couple. But it's like, well, what do you call Susan then?
She calls herself the stepmother type person or the stepmother-in-law type person.
It's so great.
She's just stepmother.
100%. But it is fun to write stepmother-in-law type person in cards.
Right.
Like, it's really great. And so thinking about Susan, like the impact that Susan has had in my life, and it's so funny because this is so clear to me as well.
Yeah.
And it has to do with food. So when I was a kid, like when I would spend time with my dad growing up, my dad and I were when it was Adam and Terry time, we were a bologna and cheese, bean with bacon soup, chili dog, maybe a burger at a ball game, father and son. Like, that was the extent of, like, what we ate together.
Your cuisine.
Oh, and we were thrilled with that. Let me be very clear. Loved that. But Susan has always had such a love and a taste and a knowledge of genuinely good food.
Yeah.
And I feel like my appreciation that I have today for food that is an experience and delicious and like just amazing largely was introduced, I think, by her.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone to their house for dinners and meals and like Christmas Eves, and sometimes, you know, we'll show up and she has a pumpkin roll and just like random things. And have you ever had anything from Susan that wasn't just amazing?
No, never once. Never once have I had anything that she made or suggested that wasn't just one of the most like amazing things ever.
It's spectacular.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because food's one of those things that like, it's such a big part of our life that I feel like my enjoyment of good food really largely is because of her.
Yeah.
Because again, before that, bologna and cheese and bean with bacon, and I'm good to go. Right? Like, I'm thrilled. And then
and Ovaltine.
And that was from my mom. My mom was the Ovaltine. Don't get me started on Ovaltine. Maybe next Mother's Day we'll talk about things that we wish our moms would have done different. And I'll talk about Ovaltine. But for this year. But no, it's like Susan brought in like the really good love of great food.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our three. Those are our three
Given mothers.
given mothers.
Yep.
Our three given mothers. But then, as we were talking about this, we've realized that we've kind of lucked out.
We have a lot of chosen mothers in our lives.
And explain that. Like, kind of describe what we view that as.
Generally, women who are older than us, who have spoken truth or life or just spoken into our lives, like in a spiritual way or just words that we needed to hear or
even were just there for us.
Even that were just there for us. Yep.
Like, these are women that we feel like have chosen us, that when we think of Mother's Day, we don't think of, and I think this is actually, let's touch on this for a second, because, we don't have kids.
Right.
Surprise, surprise.
What?
Shocking.
Missy is
really
upset right now.
Here's what I'm going to say. Missy didn't get you anything for Mother's Day Sunday.
Oh,
so just,
wow.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. And so one of the things that we have had to really do when it comes to Mother's Day, and not just Mother's Day, but our own life, is really kind of redefine motherhood.
Yeah.
Right? Because the reality is like, you will never be a, what'd you call it, given? Or a given mother,
yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But you have been a mom to a lot of people. Like, you have that legacy. There's people that would call you, that would say you are a chosen mom to them.
Yeah.
And so we think of those women who have played the role of mom in one aspect or another in our life without having the title of mom.
Right.
And when we made that list, like, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. Obviously, we didn't write this down, but like grandmothers and aunts, and in my case, my sister, that are related to me, but also have spoken into my life. But the list that we made is people outside our family circle.
Yep, these are not relatives. Mm-hmm. These are people who genuinely just have chosen us.
Right.
And Sherry, these largely are women that I think you feel like have kind of chosen you.
Yes.
And so tell us about them. And this list, I just want to be clear one more time.
This is not all inclusive.
It's not exhaustive. This was just like, sit down for 5 minutes, think of like the first few that pop into your head.
Correct.
That kind of thing.
Yep. So really the first one that popped in my head was Gwen. Mm-hmm. And this is a lady who we have known for a really long time.
Yeah.
And in many different ways, she has spoken into my life and been there in ways that were at the time just so needed for me. And so I think for me, really one of the biggest lessons that she has taught me is to be bold in who I am, even in the face of opposition, and who God made me to be. She is one of the, I don't know how to phrase it. When it comes to me doubting myself and my talents, she is one of the first people to speak up and say, no, we need your voice.
Yeah.
Always. And there's not words that I can say to convey how important and how impactful that is. And
what's interesting, Sherry, is I think back over the last number of years, like since we've known Gwen, that's not just things that she's shown you or like told you. That's things that like both you and I have gotten to watch her actually live out.
Right. Yep.
You know, and so it's not just like,
they're not just words for her. Like she really lives it out and shows me how I can as well.
That's awesome. So that was kind of the first one on your list. And then there was a couple others. You were telling me a story about just like women that in a difficult situation, both kind of used their voice to tell you something that you needed to hear.
Yes. And I was telling him this one specific story. I'm not going to go into details, but it was Sue and Kathy. And I can still just kind of picture it like they were sitting on either side of me. And I was telling them this this thing that I was going through.
So when you were telling me this, I didn't know you're like all together in one space.
Literal sitting next.
I didn't realize
on either
that.
side of me. Yeah.
I thought it was like a metaphorical sitting beside me.
No, like literally in person, we were sitting together and talking about this.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't even remember the specifics of what I was telling them, but I remember them both saying, that's not okay, and it's okay to not be okay. Like, it's okay to have hurt feelings over that, and it's okay to wrestle and struggle with God about that, and it's okay, you know, like, both of them have just been able to speak into my life and show in my life that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have all of our stuff together, and that's okay.
And for you, that was like a new thing and something that in that moment, like, you needed to hear specifically from them. Like,
specifically from them, because they were two women that I looked up to so much.
Yeah.
And to hear that from them, like, yes, we struggle with this too, was really, really great for me, liberating for me.
And I don't know, I think back to, like, all of these chosen moms in our life. And it's interesting because some of them have, like Gwen, we look at and has been there, you know, for years, been a part of our life, long time. But then there are others that really had significant impact, like in specific seasons, right? I mean, I even think back to Mary and to Sarah. I mean, Sarah for a couple of years now, but Mary, like, especially last year when you were going through health stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just, they're these women who step into our life in, like, in some ways, probably a more significant way than even they understand.
I think so, yeah.
You know, it's like, it's probably just them being them, but what it did for you and what it did for us was just, like, it was what was needed.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just so, like, motherly,
right? Yeah.
Right? It's just so, it's so motherly. But as we were talking about that, we kind of didn't just have given moms and chosen moms, because then we started to think about the journey that we've watched so many of our friends go on when it comes to parenthood and motherhood.
Yeah, so we have kind of this core group of friends that we're still friends with, that we became friends with really early in our marriage.
Yeah.
We were all part of a young marrieds, like, small group with the church, and all of us were newly married. None of us had kids yet. And being able to watch all of these women step into motherhood it's sweet, but it's also fascinating because they've all done it differently.
Yeah.
And none of them are wrong. Like, it was different in every case, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and it's still fun to watch them be moms.
That's one of my favorite things, is watching friends that you know before they're parents, is watching them become parents.
Yeah.
Because it's just like this. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like they just naturally take on this role. But one of the things that I really actually have appreciated, and again, we don't have kids, and maybe it's because we don't have kids that we've had a number of friends feel like they can have this conversation with us. I've really appreciated the number of moms who have been honest with us about the difficulties of being a mom.
Yeah.
Again, no kids. And so from the outside, it can look like, as casual observers, it can look like, man, like, are there no difficulties?
Well, one or two. I feel like it's one of two ways. Like, I feel like it's either just like, you make this look so easy, or like, you look exhausted. Like, how are you still functioning? You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I feel like it's both sides of that. And but to have them be able to come to us and to kind of talk about the joys and the hardships of motherhood, I think has been really good and really good for our friendships.
That's what I've liked, is that we've gotten to see people who have been honest about that struggle, and have been like, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
and
I love my kids, and we're going to keep going.
Oh, no, here's the thing.
Right.
No, sometimes I love the struggle where it's like, you know what? My kids are little assholes and sinners. Like,
well, that too.
No, I mean that. Because
Yeah.
for me, I think it's a given that you love your kids.
Right.
What I appreciate about is when you show up and you're like, you know what? this frickin' sucks and it's hard and I'm exhausted and I wish I could go on a damn date night.
Right.
Like, to me...
That's where we can step in because we don't have kids.
Well, to me, I appreciate that. And, like, I love that we've gotten to have friends who have had that conversation with us.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's just so... It's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real. And I think there's such a stigma, especially for moms today. Like, in an Instagram world.
In Pinterest world.
In a Pinterest world where it's like... You better throw the best birthday party. Like, you better make sure you have the best outfit. You better do this. You better do that. I love the realism that we've gotten to see so many of our friends have as they become moms.
Yeah.
And they're great moms and they're spectacular moms and they're, like, teaching their kids really good lessons. But they can also be like, you know what? Today sucked and I'm not even sure I liked my kid.
Right.
Like, that's because that to me is a reality. Because here's the thing. I promise you, there were days my mom didn't like me.
What?
I'm 42. There are still days my mom doesn't like me. And I just think that sometimes there is such a stigma around motherhood that I love when I've gotten to see glimpses of our friends just be great moms, but also be real about that.
Yes.
Oh, that is so freaking life-giving to me.
Yes. And not just our friends. I'm going to brag on my sister for a minute, too.
Oh, yeah.
I was telling him it's been really fun, like, not just our friends, but, like, we met our friends when we were all adults.
Yeah. But I'm even thinking, like, not even friends. Yeah. So, yes. No, I'm sorry. I was thinking you were going somewhere else. I see where you're going now.
Okay.
Never mind.
So, like, our friend groups, that we have watched become moms.
Yes, right.
We met them as adults. But my sister, I've known since I was born.
What?
And so there's never been a day where I have not had my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so watching her grow up, from childhood and then become a mother has been one of the most beautiful things to me because I get to see a whole different side of her. Like, this is a whole different facet that she did not have growing up because she wasn't a mother. She's always been the big sister. She's always been a little bit bossy. But, like, having the mother hat on with her two boys has been, I love watching her be a mother in the way that she mothers.
It's also nice because, like, she is one of those people that you and I talk about, and it's like, when we spend time with them, it's just like, man, what a great mom.
Yes.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, just what a great mom.
She is a great mom.
Yeah.
But she also is very honest when she screws up.
And I love that.
And I love that. When she calls and she's like, I was a terrible mom today. My kids probably hate me. And I love that she can be that honest with me, but she is a great mom.
Yeah. Can we end? Because that's like the end of our list.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I can end with the suck my butt story.
Yes.
Is that okay? It feels like an appropriate...
When your mom disowned you?
When my mom didn't even claim me as her son. Okay, many of you will already know this story. I think we've told it on vlogs. I might have told it on the podcast. I want this story told at my funeral.
Okay.
Just so you know.
All right.
Put it in the list. So it's such a good mom story.
It's fantastic.
It's such a good mom story. So growing up, so my brother and I are 13 years difference. He's 13 years older than I am. And so when I was, developing, like,
learning how to
talk and all that, my brother's at the age where, like, boys are immature and dumb.
Well,
fair. Okay.
I was going to say that's every age.
That's, first of all.
Because you're 42 and you're still there. I'm
very
not
serious and only ever appropriate.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Also, that's a lie.
As he grabs her butt.
All right.
Okay. Sorry. Anyway, back to the story. And so my mom would basically barter with my brother. Hey, if you watch your brother on Friday night while she works, she would take my brother and his friends to, like, the roller skating rink on Saturday, right? So my brother and my cousins and their friends watched me. And so what they did is they taught me wrong words.
Keeping in mind that he's 13 years older, and so when you're learning how to talk at the age 1, 2, 3, he's 14, 15, 16 years old.
The worst idea ever.
Right.
Yeah, so first of all, Mom, I know you're listening. This is a little bit on you, okay? Just so we're clear. And so they would teach me the wrong words. So they'd, like, point at a loaf of bread and say, blueberry. Blueberry. So, when I'm first learning how to talk, like I'm walking around the house and I sound like a moron, right? I'm like Blueberry the banana gravy boat. And I think I'm asking for a glass of water. And my mom thinks I may never be able to live on my own, right? It's like, it's really bad. So, like, words were not my strong point. I'm trying to word this carefully. Growing up. And as I'm learning to speak in those very first years, like, I'm barely learning words yet. We're in the grocery store, kind of in the checkout aisle, getting ready to leave. And there's apparently, my mom said something that I wanted in the checkout aisle, right? Whether it was a toy or a candy or something. And, you know, she said no. And I did not like that response. And she said that I looked at her like straight in the eye and just like no expression on my face. I just said, "Suck my butt." And there's like people around. And my mom said she was so mortified and horrified at what I said to her that everybody heard that she looked at me and said, "I'm telling your mother when we get home." In a moment, disowned me like Judas.
Didn't even think about it. This is not my child.
It was a Judas moment. Instantly, like, are you kidding me? Betrayed me in a moment.
I mean, you deserved it.
Her pride and joy. And she's like, "Nope, not today. I'm telling your mom." It's one of... So when I said earlier that there were times...
Now, she knew immediately that your brother had taught you that, and he got in trouble when you got home. However...
Without a doubt, that was my brother's fault. Let's be very clear. But she said it was so funny because, like, I did it perfectly. She said, like, my tone of voice, the use of words, everything was spot on.
The glare.
It wasn't that I used it wrong. It was just that I shouldn't have been using that.
Right.
And so when I said earlier that there were times in my life when my mom didn't like me, that's a good example of one.
Well, she didn't even claim you as her own. We would like to know your stories. We would like to know good lessons that your given or chosen mothers have taught you.
Holy cow.
So, if you head over to the LeggLife podcast page on YouTube, that is where you can leave comments. You will find this podcast and just leave.
Yeah, so just go to YouTube, search LeggLife podcast.
We want to know your stories.
We do. Want to know your story. Also want to know, do you have a suck my butt story? If you have that story, I want to hear that. Please tell me I'm not the only one whose mom, like, disowned him. Immediately
without even thinking about it.
In a grocery store. I'm telling your mother when I get home. Unbelievable. So Sherry said, leave that comment over there. And we just want to say to all of you who are given mothers, to all of you who are chosen mothers, to all of you who have played a motherly role or been a mom in any way to another human, any capacity at all, we just want to wish you an incredibly happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
The world is a better place, hands down, because of you. So friends, we love you guys and we'll see you next week on the next LeggLife podcast. Bye!